go live, but there is like a 10-second delay, 30-second delay, so I'm just waiting. Okay, I hear myself talking. Go ahead.
All right, we're good.
All right,
All right,
we're
good.
good. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Ulster County IDA. It's January 12th, 4:36 p.m. May I please have a call to order?
That was the call.
Sorry, a roll call. Rachel Silverman.
Here.
Thanks. Mr. Kelly.
Present.
Costa Wahal present. Thank you. May I please have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge
pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess we did the roll call first. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right. May I please have everybody just look at the minutes from September 17th meeting, and may I get a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Any public comment? No?
No comments? All right.
All right. We don't need an executive session.
Nope.
All right. Any old business? No? All right. I think in the new business, we had a few things we want to discuss. We want to revisit the policies and bylaws. And the second one is something to do with the UCIDA evaluations that we can discuss as well. So maybe we can start with the first one. I'll let Hillary take the lead.
Sure.
That's okay. And I'll add commentary.
Sounds like a plan.
And that's a hard stop effective.
Oh, I know. So, okay. So very quickly, we have our annual meeting coming up where we do a housekeeping agenda that kind of just reaffirms all of our policies and bylaws. And so we want to make a few changes. The first is a small change to our investment and deposit policy, and that policy should be in front of you guys. I made one note. I believe it is on the bottom of page 3. So even though Google tells me that T-bills are an obligation of the United States of America, we had talked about Treasury bills giving us a higher return on our investments. As you know, CD returns have dropped significantly. The quotes we're getting aren't even at 3%. So we just want to expand possibly our investing options, and Costu may be able to speak.
Well, we also need a collateral if we were to do something with the bank in terms of any other security. So what we had discussed was that we can take the federal risk, and we should be able to go directly to the Treasury because we can form an account there. We don't need a broker, and we can simply buy T-bills or bonds, whichever we approve, the finance committee approves.
Are we allowed to do that with this money?
Yes.
We checked with the legal counsel. The only thing we were not allowed to do was if we were to find another security, we will need a collateral, as I mentioned. But in this case, we won't require that. And it's still liquid. It's not long-term or short-term.
Right.
It is still liquid. It's market.
Cash it at any time.
Yep.
Well, that seems like a good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah. So we just wanted to, and I can ask Shannon about, or Mark even, I don't know if we need really counsel to redraft it, but just maybe more specific language on the Treasury bills, just because it would be a deviation from our normal investments, and we want to just make sure that we're very clear that we've reviewed that.
It is a deviation, but I just want to point out that it is not different from what we could do.
Yeah.
So it's just that we didn't notice that earlier. They should have been included earlier.
Yeah. It's just, I think the obligations of the United States of America is a pretty broad statement, and I don't know if we, at least I wasn't connecting that to the
And when I
possibility.
say earlier, I meant prior boards and
Yeah.
prior management.
So just again, as CD rates drop, we're just looking for better ways to invest IDA funds.
So we will need to make a recommendation to the full board.
Yes.
Right?
To make
So-
that language change.
Do we need to take any motion here?
I think if we can make a motion
Yes.
to recommend the change,
May I
the
please
language
seek a motion
change.
to recommend the change to add language to the investment policy to include T-bills, treasury, bonds, notes, any other treasury securities?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. That one was quick. All right,
Alright.
the next one is where we were hoping to spend a little more time. I have reached out to council to see if we need to hold a new public hearing in terms of making these recommendations, as this is the in front of you is the uniform tax exemption matrix. It's not the UTEP itself, it's the matrix that connects to it. So whether or not if a reference document changes, we need to hold a public hearing in connection to that, I'm not sure yet, but what we're really looking to do is tighten up some of the language. So I highlighted some of the discussions. Again, this is just kind of me thinking out loud. These aren't necessarily proposed changes, but to start on page 1,
Actually, may I please interrupt?
yes, you
I
may.
just noticed one thing. We do
Sure.
need to revisit this policy really quickly.
Oh, okay.
There's mention of chief executive officer in this
Oh,
still.
yeah, we just want to
And
change
may I
that
please get a
language.
motion to revise the policy to state executive director instead of chief executive officer, please?
Okay, so moved.
So, second.
All right,
All in
perfect.
favor?
Same
Aye.
first and second. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So we'll make those recommendations as well. Thank you, Preston.
Yes, I'm sorry if you go back.
No, that's okay. So, just kind of going through, these are just pointing out things now that we've had this policy in effect for a minute. These are some things that we're kind of seeing with each project as similar themes. So when something's coming more than once, try to take note of it. And the first thing is you'll read in the language, it says, all proposed housing projects must otherwise qualify as a project under the UCIDA Act. And you guys see that as board members as we do what's called a commercial findings resolution. And that's what really solidifies that this is a project under the IDA general municipal law. However, I think that it has been a little more challenging for me in that the policy doesn't really reflect, it doesn't draw that direct line to that commercial housing findings that we're doing.
Right.
So
We're not doing just single family houses.
exactly. And so how do we really put that into the policy so it's a little more clear to applicants that it's not just,
It's clearly commercial buildings.
yeah,
Correct.
and that
And
clearly
what is
commercial.
do we know what the
Activity.
definition is for this number of units that becomes commercial? It's like 6 or something?
It's really a culmination of several
Well, you might know.
things.
Can you help us
It's
out
fine.
with this?
I think 4 and under is
Is
residential still. and
So the only
it's
thing I
4.
which I don't know for,
Yeah.
yes, and
Our expert.
but we do have in the language where zoning is, it's not zoning that makes it
Right.
residential versus commercial. It's
The
It's
units.
number of units.
not even number of units. So when you guys approve this, right, you look and Chris usually lists them. You look at a bunch of different things. Criteria. So that's why we have the study. We have the cost benefit analysis study. We look at what is the, economic impact it's going to have.
Mhm.
We look at things like, does it meet the county's need for housing? Is it going to create or retain jobs? So there's a lot of things that we look at. It's not one single definition.
The activity itself is commercial in nature rather than, that's why the study is needed.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it has happened. You want to go in detail actually about applicants who apply and.
Yeah, so and I think I hope I'm reading your mind.
No, go ahead.
So we have a cost benefit analysis tool that we use for all of our projects to say, what's the benefit the project's going to have, and then what is the cost to the community and ownership for the exemptions. So with that one that we have, it has a little bit of a housing component where you can kind of like put in a little bit of information on housing, but it's not robust enough that it can support the commercial findings resolution, especially on larger projects. So my proposal would be that we just have language in here saying the project may be required to provide documentation to support this determination. And then the documents may include, but are not limited to, an independent third-party analysis of the proposed project and documentation of the supervisor of a local jurisdiction, among other things, because the independent third-party analysis and the documentation from the supervisor of the local jurisdiction are two things that the comptroller's office has kind of opined on as documents that they accept in supporting that this is an IDA project. So that's why I listed those, but again, there may be other things we don't want to box ourselves in.
Also, just to keep in
Yeah.
mind that it is still subject to the board's approval and
Yes.
authorization, whether we deem it to be commercial in activity or not.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
I'm
So
then
not
this
sure
is
the
not guidance.
supervisors should be able
Correct.
to.
no, the supervisor is just the letter from the
Supportive.
supervisor is something that the comptroller's office has stated.
I see.
That this, if that supervisor from a community says, hey, this project supports our need for housing, it will help retain workers in our community and will help the overall economic impact, then short of a study,
We
that
don't need
will
a study, I see.
that will suffice. But sometimes because there could be a political component of a
Right.
supervisor signing that the studies, the independent third party analysis has also been sufficient for that
Okay.
purpose.
And that also does not require us to accept it.
No.
Still, it is dependent on our,
Still judgment.
yes, judgment.
And they don't have to do it.
They
It's
don't,
not required that they do it. We're just saying it
May.
might be.
maybe because we want the policy to just have a little more teeth because you guys are going to be doing that commercial findings resolution, and we wanted to make it clear that that commercial findings resolution may require additional documentation. It's not just, oh, I've got 6 units, I'm a commercial project. It's a variety of factors
Right.
that you guys are going to be considering in, is this a commercial project?
Also, if it's let's say I'm just picking a number illustratively, $300,000 project, let's say, which most probably is not going to be the case.
Right.
However, if that entity has to pay $10,000 to $15,000 for simply a study,
Right.
that
Yeah.
may not be fair either.
Right.
It's
So-
9,000 right now is the cost of the study. So for a smaller project,
That's a lot.
it's a
Yes.
lot. So, if there is, like, let's say it's mixed use, so there's some clear economic activity, you've got your letter from your
Right.
supervisor, we're not trying to make these lists so heavy and that it becomes a hindrance to the
Mhm.
project.
Right.
But we want to make sure that we're following
Guidelines.
the general municipal law.
We can remain nimble and we don't have to become bureaucratic about it. That's
No,
good.
we don't. I just wanted something because it feels like it's a missing
Yep.
part of our,
Is there anything else
documents.
in this that we need to change?
Wait,
Yes,
just one
we
question
should
about
do-
this though. Is there a
Yeah.
concern that we could be accused, that it could appear that some projects have a more expensive burden to meet than others?
Could be.
it could be. And
If it's just at our discretion, whether or not we ask someone to pay for that report.
If
so,
it's an impediment,
no,
just
go ahead.
if it's an impediment, perhaps it would be unfair. However, if the board, which is 7 of us, deems it to be necessary that we require a study, we are not able to make a judgment despite or without,
We would do that.
I think we would
Okay.
have to do it.
And I think that's why I use the term
May, yeah.
It's May,
And
not
that's a
required.
little, as opposed to you have to and you don't. It's a may. And some projects, when I tell them this, even though it's not written right now,
Okay.
some of them are like, let's just do the study. I want to have these numbers. These are the numbers I want to present to the public. I believe that this project's a commercial project. I want people to see what the economic impact will be, and I want to have it. And usually larger projects, to them, this is part of the cost of kind of getting the project, moving it forward. It's the smaller projects where there's some discretion there, and I think that's where we can lean on council too, to feel if what we have is sufficient. And then
Right.
if the board's discretion to say, hey, this still isn't making sense for me, can we do a study? That's still in your discretion.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable. That's good. Good.
Okay, so that's page 1. And then that's the policy itself. And then our matrix, there are some areas where the points matrix, as you know, projects evaluate themselves typically and let us know how many points they're assigning their project. And then we present that to council, who vets it, who says, yes, you get these points based on this criteria, or no, you cannot have these points. Still subject to the board. Some of these things are subjective as to whether or not the board would agree with that. So we found some areas where there was confusion, as well as some areas where they feel like they're underutilized, that no one's really coming to us with these points, and so we're not bringing that benefit we'd like to see. So I'm just going to kind of start on the left and work our way over. So the first column then I'll discuss is environmental sustainability. So in the current matrix, we have the language says use of existing site. Sorry,
These
these
are
were
the ones
just,
here.
they're not in those.
That's all right,
Because I
I'm
just made
listening.
these as,
Here, I can share.
That's fine.
they're,
I can share. The
here, no
reason I'm
worries.
aware of what it
Well, here,
what's
move over
extra.
here next to me,
Here.
and we can follow on together.
Oh, there's another
I
one.
have
Oh, there's
another
another
one. I have
one.
another one. Okay.
Sorry, I should have just done
That's
this.
okay.
No, and
Yeah,
I
sorry.
apologize.
That's all right.
Because
You
these
didn't
are
know I
just,
was coming either.
well, these are me thinking out loud. They're
Mhm.
not documents prepared or directed to be prepared by the board. So that's why we just didn't make them
And
public,
it's
because
subject to
they're
legal counsels.
they're discussion drafts.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So initially we had in our environmental sustainability, one of the sites to be use of existing site, which everyone, since it's planet Earth, says, well, my site is an existing site. And then the other thing we had was shovel ready. And so I think that that kind of went back to when New York State had a shovel ready program. They since changed that program to be called Fast New York. And so for a lot of developers who are working their way through planning boards today, shovel ready meaning that they can pull a permit. So, but I don't think that that had initially been our intention of shovel ready. So removing that confusing language, but replacing it with what I think the intent was, like an infill site. So something where it was already zoned for density, places where, you know, communities were encouraging this type of development, or the adaptive reuse of an existing site, which again meets that kind of environmental, reducing sprawl, lessening the impact on the environment, with clearer language as to what the board's intent had been for the shovel ready and use of existing sites. So that was my first possible suggestion. Any thoughts on that?
I like the switch in language very
Yeah.
much. I don't know the construction
Yeah.
language best, so I don't know if there are more words we want to include, more buzzwords. But I think other folks on the board
Yeah.
probably
some
would be able to
expertise in
weigh
that area.
in
know
in case we're
too.
missing something
Yeah.
to add there, but I like the pivot very much. I think this is
Much better.
Okay.
definitely,
So I
definitely
am
more
okay
clear.
with that as well.
Mhm.
I just want to state, legal counsel has not reviewed
No,
it.
they have
These are
not.
just changes
These
we
are
want to
just
discuss as a
ideas
group
of
first.
changes, then
Yep.
we'll give it to
There
council
are a
from
few
there.
others that we should discuss.
Yep. You want me to go to the
Yeah,
next one?
please go ahead.
Okay, so then the next one under 3 points, we've noticed that really no one is seeking the 3-point for the use of the home and community renewal environmental building standards, likely because if you're going through HCR, you're doing an as of right shelter rent pilot, you're not coming to the IDA.
Right.
So this actually I think was Class 2's idea. I really liked it, but the idea of giving 3 points if they're purchasing the raw construction materials from Ulster County. So if it's steel, if it's concrete, those raw building materials, purchasing, not only will that have a great economic impact here in the county, but we're reducing transportation costs from shipping things in,
We have to define
pollution.
what we mean by the raw materials.
Yeah,
so
and I'm a
So
little,
that's one thing,
I was a little lost on
actually,
that.
so
Staples.
to me,
Yeah.
the first thing is as long as they buy locally. That's first.
Well, I don't know if
Second,
we
it
can do
doesn't have
100% either.
No, that's right. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be.
so this is just
And
really an
it can be
idea
a certain
right now.
percentage, a threshold perhaps.
Right.
Yeah.
The second thing I was thinking is that we could bifurcate it. I don't want to complicate it. That's why I didn't think bifurcation would be good. But we could say if it's solely made in Ulster County, then you get a greater benefit perhaps.
Okay.
If
Mm.
you buying it in Ulster County, then you get certain benefit. But if you're importing it, then perhaps not.
Yeah.
So it is a little protective.
Somewhat percentage-wise, somehow we have to figure that
So
out.
that's one thing I want to discuss. So we could either have, if we were to split it, let's say, or bifurcate it, we could either have an escalator, if you may,
Mhm.
that if you buy it locally, then you get X number of points. And if it's produced and bought locally, then
More.
you get even more. So
Yeah,
not just raw, but produced and delivered. So we have not only
yeah.
changed that, but also reduced the impact the negative impacts we don't want.
Because they're
That's right.
using, getting local
Local,
steel
yeah.
fabricator, they're gonna be
Yeah.
buying the steel,
Yes,
having it fabricated,
yes.
and then
Right.
set in place.
Brick, cement, anything.
Right,
Whatever we manufacture, if you can buy it here, it's only better, right? And if we can buy it locally, even if it's not manufactured, at least sourced locally, that's the next step.
I think we would have to figure out a way to have some, like a percentage of the raw materials,
Right.
because I think 100% is probably not realistic.
No.
And then if they say, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then they do 1%, that isn't really material either.
Right.
Well, the other thing is, I'm assuming that if somebody is getting, let's say, 70% of the material locally,
Yeah,
they would
sounds
rather
good.
get the 100% because it'll be cheaper and maybe they'll get bulk discount. I'm just
Right.
conjecturing. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if we provide an incentive for that in a written manner,
Mhm.
they would focus on it, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
also has secondary benefits.
I think
does.
because it has 3 points, I'm just kind of like gonna, try to throw a dart at the dartboard, but from some of the cost benefit analysis that we've seen that we've sent out, not doing them in-house, they're usually trying to get projects to be at about 75% local materials. So if we up it to 80 or 85, I I don't know.
At least
My
it's
only concern is
So my concern on this
we don't want
is
them.
that if we have a manufacturing company that's going to be buying, they're gonna build a building which costs, say, 10 million,
Yeah.
and they're gonna install 20 million of equipment that's
Mhm.
specialized that has to come from someplace else.
Yeah.
I would certainly think we would be interested in financing that,
oh yeah,
even though that equipment had to come from someplace else.
as long as the quality of local, if it's made locally, let's say,
Mhm.
and quality is comparable, then the preference should be towards the local materials or equipment or whatever it might be.
If
But
the
if it's not
equipment is
available,
more of an issue.
No, I agree.
Building a building, I'm sure we could source most of that
I
locally.
completely agree. If you're buying a
But-
Siemens MRI, it's
Yeah.
not made in.
That's what I'm
No.
thinking
I
of.
know what you're thinking about.
Hypothetically speaking, of course.
That's why I
Yeah,
had the raw
but I agree.
materials as a proposed. Um,
So maybe that wouldn't include the equipment, because equipment
Wouldn't be raw material.
capital
wouldn't be raw
expense.
material, that's a capital expense.
yeah.
It's a good point, thank you, yes. Of
So
course, I was thinking of Siemens.
I know what you're
MRI.
thinking, but we can actually think about those things because, especially if we want to invite and attract industry,
Yeah,
you're not the only industry, and healthcare is not the only industry that
do something
imports.
else.
Come on. But so I'm glad you all see what we're thinking.
I think
we-
that's a great idea.
All right.
I mean,
All
in
right.
principle,
In principle,
I think
yes.
we have to tease it out a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit,
we'll have
maybe
to
with a
revisit
larger
this. This is
group
not to be
Okay.
agreed upon right now. But
to
so
figure out how to define that. But I
All
think
right.
it's a great idea. I think to the extent that we can have our businesses in Ulster County benefit from
yes,
development
exactly.
yes,
is, that's what we should be doing,
Yes.
because then it's furthering jobs and opportunity
and that was
for our other
the
businesses.
that was the thing. We are already focused on local labor.
We
So
have
why not
labor,
be, yeah, so why not be focused on everything else that we can, we're saying
it's the other
services
half
are,
of the cost, generally
Yeah.
speaking.
correct.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and we
Correct.
do have just so you guys know, we do have a local vendor policy, but that encompasses anything from, if you're using local
Yeah, Dunkin'
lawyer.
Donuts, if you're bringing in
I was just
coffee,
gonna
you got
say,
one
yeah.
So
right
it's-
there.
it's-
Catering the, yeah.
It's a
And I
little
could be
bit of
the
a
agent
different
in
lift.
between and
Yeah.
just, that,
But
no.
I think if we do go something like this, we just want to make sure that we're not double dipping on points.
I think
So
we have it
that'd be
in the
my only
wrong place.
concern.
That should be replacing the 8 local vendors.
Well, so the reason why we had it in the environmental sustainability was to reduce the impact of
the
bringing
transportation.
goods.
For
Yeah.
raw materials.
So that's why it was raw materials being sourced locally.
It serves a dual purpose, so it does sit in both buckets.
Yeah.
And we can discuss where we want to place it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can update
I think
that.
the case of the raw materials, if the vendor they're buying it from is in Ulster County, but it still has to be imported like
See, that's
cement.
what I was just thinking. I think impact is already negated.
I'm not
So I
sure.
agree.
I
So
think it
we can
should
think
be-
about that.
But anyway,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm totally in
can-
favor of that.
Yep.
We
in
can,
Principle.
yeah, kind of refine that a little bit for the next meeting. And
Mhm.
then moving, all the way to the far right column, the affordable set aside unit. So one thing that we found was that most projects are either being encouraged strongly encouraged to do an affordability set aside by whatever municipality that they're building in, or that there's one written into their local code, village code, or town code. Because of that, we're not, it's kind of an easy layup then to get the point, and there's
Right.
not really a reach there. So one of the things that we're proposing is that for most of the municipalities that have this in their code, we're seeing 10% as kind of the bare minimum. So we want to up it to 15, even though some municipalities have already taken it. That's definitely the minority there. So up that to 15. However, we recognize that a lot of people are looking for ways, especially on housing mixed use projects, to capture points, because it's harder for them to capture job points since they typically don't have LOIs in place on their retail. Even though we will eventually count those points, we're not counting them for the purposes of the application. So an idea we had was to, if they really can't just make the numbers work by coming up a little bit on the affordability, if they're at least on the mixed use retail spaces willing to potentially, rent those out at a reduced rate. And the reason being is that for some places, it could be, taking a risk on retail clients if they don't have the foot traffic, if it's an area that's they're trying to kind of build up as a little bit of a business district or downtown area. We don't want to see these buildings sit vacant
Right.
and not being able to get those retail tenants in there. And so if a business is willing to kind of maybe reduce some of those costs, get those retail tenants in there,
Yeah,
especially for,
support the local business.
yeah,
Yeah.
we thought that that could be an area, but I have a little blank there. So like, what's enough for it not to be such an easy lift,
Well,
that it's kind of
If I
happen
may step in
anyway?
there
But go
now.
ahead.
No, no.
Yes.
So that's one thing we were thinking about. So either we put a stat number, 15%, for example, or we say whatever the bare minimum requirement is, let's say Kingston has 10% requirement. How about instead of that, we say whatever the local requirement is, in addition to that, we want 5% more. Now, the
Oh,
5% is, of course, subject to it. It does two things. It allows us to do it in a way that some may not have a policy, which then says, okay, you don't have a 10% restriction, you have a 0%, so that is only 5%. So
Well,
that's kind of a catch.
we
So,
already have a policy. I apologize
no, I
that
know.
if they don't have any affordability,
I
they
understand.
have to,
Yes.
and the IDA will determine what
So
that
we just need to
affordability
make
is.
sure we are very clear on that,
Yeah.
how we want to proceed, because if we do plus something, an increment, then we may not have to revisit the policy later on, because Kingston can go up to 15, we still can say 5% more if we are okay with it. So that would be another thing to think about, not just an increase, but how to position it.
Mhm. And then the other thing, so then kind of as you're chewing on that, we had kind of large jumps. So we had, 10% affordable, and then the next, to get more points, you had to be all the way up to 20% affordable. And then it went to over 50% affordable. And there's two things, is one, you know, trying to get those affordable units to work on their end on the math equation has
It's
always
hard.
been, it's
Yes.
very hard. And so we found that the 1 point that they were getting wasn't enough of an incentive to go for more additional units. So
So if someone is going to do mostly affordable, they're gonna go through HCR.
they're not going to come to
They're
us.
not
No,
gonna
they're
come
not
to
They'll,
going to.
we cannot match the pilots
And I
that
don't-
they can get through.
Right, they get
as
better
of right,
pilots
yeah.
and they get very, very inexpensive money, 1%
Yeah,
interest.
exactly. So they're not going to come to us.
So it doesn't, so we're really trying to squeeze in some affordable units in a generally a market rate.
And generally a market rate, generally mixed use
Mixed-use
project. Yeah,
project,
we're
so-
trying to squeeze out a couple more affordable units, and by
Right.
reducing that number, I think we'll have more projects maybe likely
To be
want
trying
to
do
capture
this.
those points by giving us another couple units.
They're pure affordable, having done those,
Yeah.
they is, it's, there's not a lot of, the state
Yep.
is very competitive at at
Yeah.
helping to finance
Yeah.
those, which we
And
would
those are
not be
flat
able-
pilots too, like we're gonna be incrementing.
Right.
It becomes,
They're
it
flat
doesn't,
pilots that, you know,
Yeah.
for a long time, 50
Yeah.
years.
exactly, it doesn't really make sense. So we're not seeing those fully affordable projects come to us, and that's so,
And I don't think we're a good fit for that because
No.
of the, you know, a
The-
50-year pilot
Yeah.
and 1% no capital
yeah,
mortgages during those kind of times. That's not, I mean, that's a very different.
it is.
And so we're just trying to squeeze a little more out of the,
Yes.
Affordability out of
Yes.
the projects that
Also,
are
as
coming to us, yeah.
the governor's office becomes more focused on affordability, I think they announced something they're trying to focus on more houses with X number of $1 million coming up. So I think we'll just be wasting the space that
Yeah,
we can
exactly,
provide.
because we're not competitive in
we're not
that
going to be
area.
competitive in that
Yeah,
area.
so,
So
Um,
really, we're going to be competitive where there is commercial rental
Yep.
spaces on the first floor, which a lot of communities like the idea of that. They have a ground level retail and then housing above.
Yeah.
But I agree that we need to bring the numbers down to, you know, to numbers like these that are probably attainable. So we
exactly.
can get as, you know, reasonably get as much affordability as possible. And yet recognize that otherwise we're not competitive to other options that are available
Yeah.
for affordable housing.
So that was, one suggestion. Then again, I just put it in the 15, 16 to 20 over 20, but as Costu mentioned, we could also do it as they're building on what's the code and where they're building. So that's another way to,
So how about if we were to look at that, we said that at least say 10% where there are no
Yep.
minimums,
Mhm.
and then we want 5% over whatever the minimum is. So we're guaranteed if they're gonna use our money, there's gonna be at least 10%. And if the community that they're building in has something, there'll be a 5% additional, uh, 5% more
Yeah.
units that would be, than what are required. Because
Mhm.
they all put in just the minimum.
Yeah.
So
right.
using us, there'd be a benefit to the community of additional units.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we do have the 10%, as Hillary was saying on
Yeah,
the
we
first
do.
page. That's the requirement. And we can just say, in addition to this, you'd be required to have X% more.
If there is a.
If there is no-
If there is
If
no,
there is,
yeah.
if
Okay.
there already is one in place, so.
Then you refer to next page, otherwise you refer to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
And
that
then-
sounds
I don't know
great.
if you want any
So-
feedback on that, but I like the idea of it being on per town.
Yeah.
Per municipality.
Yeah.
Because there's another law that is exemptions are based on the county median.
Yes, exactly.
And there are no houses
house-
that would, in certain towns, that would qualify for an
That's right.
exemption at all, so.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
that's one of the things I want to work on
Uh-huh.
changing.
Come to more
Okay.
meetings.
There you go. And then the last comment I have on this is that under the community investment policy, we have the language right now that states the project creates infrastructure with community benefits, which again, that's one of the ones every project says, well, yes, of course, my project's wonderful. It creates tons of infrastructure that's a benefit to the community. So I just propose that we have a footnote defining that better with like some examples that
Yeah.
may include but not limited to discretionary project components that benefit, are benefit to the larger community. So oftentimes projects will be required to do things that may have an, kind of an incidental benefit to those around them, but it's not
A lot of times
really,
planning boards require that, and that would maybe, they would point that out to us, that they had to build an extra playground or something that,
Yeah.
or access to the rail trail in McDonald's or
Exactly.
something like that.
It's hard to tease out sometimes what a planning board is requiring in order for the project to make sense, to happen safely, and what the planning board is saying,
So I'll
hey,
say
this
it
is a,
openly since she's pointing to me. We don't want people putting park benches.
Yeah.
Or saying, okay, we put a park bench, now we're done. No, it
And
has to
now
be
we get
something
3
substantial,
points.
something
Yeah.
quantifiable, tangible that says this was or this is going to be a long-term benefit towards either the infrastructure or just maintaining, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It has to be more substantial.
We're just looking to kind of put some very light, definite. We don't want to box us into a corner
Right.
with something that we could never have imagined. That's great, but now they can't capture the points on it. But we also want to provide a little bit of structure and framework because every project thinks that their project's great,
Right.
and they all think their project provides benefit to the community. So without having some guardrails, that's been one that every project wants to capture.
Yeah.
And
They have
If
to
it's-
extend water or sewer. I mean, those are,
Yeah,
those are
exactly.
big
Yeah.
benefits.
Is it stuff they have to do, like extending water and sewer? Or could it possibly be read as a gift?
so it
What do
could
you-
be read as a gift as well. And I think a good example is we've seen projects sometimes as they're working their way through give gifts, and that if that comes to us buttoned up, there's already a gift exchange stated, signed, and agreed upon by the project and whatever other entity. The board could review that and determine whether or not they felt that rose to the level of awarding those points.
Yeah.
And
It gives
another,
us the flexibility.
it gives you the
Okay.
flexibility. And then I think on the other part we were talking about where a planning board may require them to build infrastructure. If it's infrastructure that's going to kind of only benefit the project, and maybe there's an incidental benefit in that, well, we're not going to tax your sewer because we're building our own, versus, well, we're extending a water line a quarter mile, and so then now we're extending the access to municipal water for a
Could be
quarter
used by
mile.
other
Other
folks.
It could
people,
be
yes.
used, other people could tie into that water line. So I think it still has to be a per project.
Yeah.
Um,
Flexibility.
but we were getting like, well, I'm building a park bench and we have affordable units, so the whole community, like, we were just getting the kitchen sink as 3 points, and I think we want to just define that a little better.
My concern is it would go even further from what the project is, this potential gift, doesn't have to be so tied to the project, like
Yes.
Well, it could
want to
be.
buy
So
the town a fire
A
truck.
fire truck,
I was just
yeah.
thinking fire truck as the
Situation.
example came up earlier, or it could be a sidewalk, or it could be anything, I think.
Yeah.
As long as, to me, and this is my opinion only, so I'm of course open to things, as long as it's a tangible long-term benefit. That's what my priority would be if I were to look at it solely.
Yeah.
And how we describe it and how we detail it out, it'll have to be parsed out. I don't
Okay.
think we're there yet.
Okay,
I just think the community benefit was a bit of a catch-all, and
Yeah.
everyone was kind of looking to say, well, here,
yep.
I want
Yeah.
3 points for that. So, okay. And then I think we can do the review of the,
Board
that
evaluation.
was all I had for policies and procedures, and now we can go into the Board of Health.
Okay.
All right.
Was there something in the loan fund here?
That's for CRC.
That's for CRC.
Oh,
We'll be quick on that too. All right, so confidential evaluations are in the first packet, in the back, yeah.
Come back.
And I mean, this is what it is. This is what we're going to submit.
This is what we're
And-
submitting. You want me to go over it?
Yeah, go for it.
So we got everyone to fill it out. I think, in the interest of time, there was nothing that jumped out to me as too concerning. Most people were agree or somewhat agree on most of these. I think the areas where we could focus on making improvements would be the two where we got more than one person responding as a somewhat agree. Which one was the board knows the statutory obligations of the authority, and if the authority is in compliance with state law. I think that that's one that I would be happy to probably take on with Shannon. We could do an additional training, go over general municipal law. It is very complex. I think that some people have been on the board for many, many years, feel very confident in this. And then there are some people that may be newer. And when we start talking about general municipal law, it can feel really like overwhelming.
it was for me the
Share
first couple of
resources.
years.
We don't necessarily have to make everyone an expert on day
No.
one in a
No.
presentation, but we can share where you can find the answers. Which I think would empower people to know that if they have a question or are confused about something, I can go get it and
yeah.
Get it from our council.
We have,
Yeah.
yeah, and talking to council and having them, maybe spend a little more time on resolutions.
Mhm.
Everyone has those zip drives, hopefully, or I don't know if you still have
No
them,
more.
but remember I had the zip drives and I gave everyone the whole,
Yeah.
I still have it.
whole book.
I
The book is on there. So I think
feel like I
pointing to
have it.
people to where resources are, and then if anyone wants to sit one-on-one or three-on-one or whatever, I can go over things in more detail.
Well, to me, this was the most important one. The second one is, I think, I don't have any problem with the amount of time we get. I can understand um,
Oh.
the opportunity aspect. So it could be certain members who haven't had the opportunity to. But the first one that we just discussed is the most important one to me.
So I think this is one where we had similar kind of discussions last year. One of the things we did was put down hard dates of accepting meeting materials. It's hard to get stuff out too far in advance because it's like
Changes.
putting a
Mhm.
book together and then it changes and you guys end up with, and I think Steve, unfortunately, this happens to you more than anyone else, but you've got someone prints out this beautiful packet for you and then you get here and
It's
my
changed.
page isn't that page because things change.
Right.
So going too far in advance often leads to just as many problems. But we've also added in discussions, more discussion time on there. So people, and maybe just reminding people that if there's a discussion item on there and a resolution following, that we don't have to then move to the resolution, we can table it. And that the discussion is the time for the board to determine whether or not you have enough information and you want to move ahead with the resolution. Are you seeking more information? Do you want to table the resolution? Maybe being more clearer. That would be the easiest lift.
I
Where
think-
would
Yeah,
you like
we
to
could
go
just
from there?
ask the
I
question,
think
give,
we
give,
gotta-
extend the, make it clear, a very
Yes.
overt, is everyone comfortable now?
Reviewing the
Do we
rest
want
of it.
more time?
Yeah.
If anyone, I don't know, tabling is,
Yeah, tabling
I
is
don't
a
think,
tool.
I don't want to
Yes.
have endless tabling because somebody doesn't like a project. I mean, we don't have to
Correct.
all agree.
We're traumatized from
Uh,
tabling.
I know
No more
you are.
tabling.
We all know it. We know it.
That was awful in
It
the
was.
past where we
It
had, we had tablers who,
I
Yes.
remember.
I know.
so that was not very helpful. So I think instead of encouraging tabling, we should be able to tease out what the concern is so that it can be addressed by either the project, our council,
Yes.
or otherwise, or maybe by, members around the table helping the person to understand, if they're
Yeah.
not really sure.
No, I think that's a great, because we
But I don't want
do,
to go into encouraging tabling. That was
Yes.
okay.
awful for.
We
I think we should
Traumatized.
encourage discussion.
just encourage
Yeah.
more
Not,
discussion
yeah.
and
We don't
point
have
out.
to all agree.
No.
we
Don't
can't.
be afraid to say no. If
That's
you
why
don't
we had a
like it,
board.
say no.
Yes.
Yes.
And we do ask that the project, anytime they're, within reason, obviously, as they're coming through, not, 3 years later if it's something innocuous, but we do ask that they attend the meetings. So they are usually always, if a project is on the agenda and has not yet been approved, they're usually always sitting in the audience here. We can always bring them up,
Ask them.
ask them directly, point blank. And so maybe just making that clearer, letting members are empowered to have discussion. And so I think that to me is the easiest lift to
Yes.
address some of these. There
Yeah.
are some other ones that had some ones. So if there are any other areas you'd like me or council.
Well, I'm glad there's an agreement on the first one.
Yeah.
The mission is agreed upon.
Yeah, and I think the second one, having slowing it down a little bit to make sure everyone's on board and understands. It doesn't mean that they have to vote for anything or against anything. It just we need to be able to have enough comfort to be able to vote.
Yeah.
And I would say the onus is a little bit on the individual as well, the board member, to be able to say vocally or verbalize that, hey, I don't have enough information to decide, so can we take a little more time? So we can facilitate that in a manner,
Yeah.
Mhm.
however we're adults.
And I think too, sometimes, not everyone does their homework. So I think
Yes.
also encouraging people to say, this was a huge packet. Can we slow down, spend a little more
Yeah.
time on each item and not assume that everyone has memorized a 400-page document? So
Yep.
that's, okay.
All right.
All right, excellent.
All right.
So that's it for
That's good.
IDA.
All right.
And I know she's
So-
getting short on time, so we can,
Yes. So do we have anything else to discuss for IDA at all? Anybody? No?
Nope.
So may I please seek a motion to adjourn?
No move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The
Okay.
UCIDA meeting for today has been adjourned. Can we jump straight into the UCCRC?
Mhm.
All right. No break necessary, right?
Nope.
All right. So may I please call to order the governance meeting for UCCRC, Ulster County Capital Resource Corporation, January 12th. It's 5:21 p.m. Roll call, Ms. Silverman,
Here.
Mr. Kelly,
Present.
Constable present. All present. All right. May I please seek a motion, review and a motion to approve the minutes from the 17th of September meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Raise your-
Oh, aye.
Thank you. No, that's okay. Do we have any public comment? No? I don't believe we need an executive session.
Nope.
Why don't we do this? The new business is almost the same as what we discussed for UCIDA. No?
No.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
We'll do old business first.
Okay.
All right, UCCRC loan fund. We have discussed this in the past. This is the bridge fund or loan fund, if you may, to allow for not-for-profit organizations to seek a interim financing to reach their goal until they get the grant money. That's kind of the premise of it.
Yep.
I will let Hillary take the lead. We did review this again, and I believe we are generally okay with one exception. One thing we wanted to discuss. I don't know what point it is, but
I
what is
added
the
some
yeah, of course.
discussion points on the second. So,
One is the dollar amount
yep.
range, which was, I think, the most important. And other than that, we can discuss further.
So thanks, Castu.
No,
So we're, just want to finalize what the loan fund will look like, and then we can kind of talk about some of the other kind of like, things in the ether then to consider. So the first up, we were looking at 10,000 to 50,000 being loan amounts. Again, these are relatively small, but given their uses and
Yeah.
what we're tying them to, we felt that this would meet the need.
If people started.
Yeah. That the total amount of the fund that we'll set aside directly from the UCCRC would be $275,000, and we'll keep a reserve in there of, 25,000. We would have, just looking through some of the laws around this, we would have to set up a separate account. We can't mix that loan money with any other money. We would look to have a loan period where it would be open. They can apply until funds are exhausted, or until the loan period ends, and that time we can kind of reevaluate the status of the fund itself. The guarantees would be that the loan would be backed by the UCCRC application. They'd have to show, sources of funds, and that if it was tied to grant dollars, which what the loan we're really trying to gear it towards, we would want that letter of approval that these are reimbursable grant funds.
Right.
When we're talking about uses, we wanted first kind of be focused on capital projects that have the job creation or retention metric tied to it. The CRC is a local economic development corp, so we do have to follow law in that our loan funds have to be geared towards economic development activity. And this is where we were still looking at some,
It's okay, keep going.
what percentage of the total project cost, keeping
Well, I would think
it.
it's really should be tied to the grant that we're
Yeah.
advancing,
Yep.
Right.
not the project cost at all.
Yep.
Because the project cost may be more or less, it's,
Well,
so if they're getting a
considering the
grant,
amount of the loan,
Yeah.
it's
it'll
a
be
pretty
much
modest.
more.
Yes. And that we were willing to working capital related to the awarded grant. So if it was working capital that was awarded in the grant, then those funds could be used. New construction, renovations, site improvements were all allowable uses. Ineligible uses, we had defined as refinancing of debt, organization costs, media advertising, and investments.
Mhm.
And then some interest rates and fees. We had 4% or the cost of capital, whichever was higher. An application fee of $500, a closing fee of $1,000. I think this is where we would just, again, we're keeping these loan amounts small, so we can probably have some boilerplate stuff from council, and keep these costs manageable is the hope. I think if we couldn't
Yeah,
do that,
$1,000 on a $10,000 loan is a
Yes,
pretty
it's
steep
10%.
closing fee.
it
Yes.
is a steep closing
And it would be
fee.
$1,500 because of the
Yeah.
application
Correct.
fee.
Right,
So
15%, that's really high.
it is high. So this is where I think my notes were to manage those costs a little bit better, should we have a loan committee that kind of does the underwriting and then it moves it to the full board for approval? Could that, if we have a committee that's evaluating these, saying you meet the criteria for, I think the problem that I have is me being the only person, would I be swayed by just saying like, oh, this is perfect, this is perfect, this is perfect. And then, I think when there's a committee doing the underwriting and evaluating a person's creditworthiness on these loans, and then the board approves it, could likely help keep our application costs.
But these loans are basically, we want them secured by the
The grant.
approved grant.
Yes.
But I think from the perspective of the comptroller's office who governs us, they're going to want to see some kind of robust underwriting process that at least involves someone putting eyes on this. They write all this down in an application. We somehow assess their creditworthiness and then
We could have a
approve.
committee
I
that
think-
recommends to the full.
I was
Yeah.
gonna just say, and it could be under finance, if that's okay.
I was gonna
And-
say under governance, but.
It can be under governance as well, which is fine. We can discuss that.
You're all
However,
on the- You're all on the finance committee.
I know,
Yeah.
we are all,
We're on the
that's why I was
finance
saying
committee.
finance. That's why I was saying
Send it
finance.
my way.
Yes, that's right.
Here we
But
go.
what I was thinking is, along the same lines, it also protects us from any risk that could be there, that there was
Yeah,
only
make sure
one
there
person.
was-
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's good.
yes.
Yeah, and then you can get into conflict of interest things, like
Correct.
if I knew someone,
Correct.
then who does the underwriting?
And Hillary knows everybody, so.
I don't. So that's where I thought, again,
Good
my
idea.
question
Alright.
on the
Yeah.
closing fee, we could probably reduce this if we,
We could,
I think closing
think
fee
we
should be 1%.
1%?
yeah, I was
Yes.
thinking it should be something like that, where it's tied to
Yeah.
the size of the loan. Because
Okay,
these are not-for-profits,
Yeah.
typically small amounts.
Yeah.
For hopefully fairly short terms.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
other
We don't
thing,
wanna
I
have
think
it,
so too.
in terms of,
15% would be way high.
no, you're right. In terms of the amount, I did want to discuss, do we want it to be up to 50 grand? Because let's say 5 people come with 50 grand, we're done.
That's
So-
okay.
That's fine.
Okay,
But look at it,
I'm
look at
fine with it. I
I'm
just want to
fine
make
with
sure
that
we
too.
discuss.
If you look at it, like say People's Place, that's almost within
I
sight of
agree.
us.
Yes,
They got a grant for $250,000 and it just takes a while for them to actually get the
Yes.
money. And they needed to float it for 3 or 4 months.
Mhm.
That's what this is for.
I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure. The other thing is we can also increase the amount all the time, not the amount that we need to lend,
Right.
but the
We can always add more
total.
money to the fund.
Exactly,
can.
exactly.
Exactly.
We have the money to do that.
Yes.
So this is a modest amount to get
Yeah.
sort of
Started.
our feet in the water.
So I think my questions for you guys to discuss really was the next steps at least would be what is outside of this grant, what are some of the criteria for approval? Like what are we going to be asking applicants for in order
Mhm.
to review this? And then we talked about the loan committee. There may be an annual reporting requirement. I have to look into that. They may have to report into Paris every year. So that could be a consideration. And then do we want to amend our annual reporting fees? Because again, they're going to be kind of high given the loan amounts.
For the program like this, we have to, for very small amounts, what we're trying to do here is when Ulster County issues a grant to somebody
Yeah.
and they're not going to get it for 3 months because that's how long it takes. If they have a project that they ready to go, or it's supporting an existing program
Mm-hmm.
that's being renewed.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think this isn't something we're gonna make any money on. This is
No.
No,
we're
this is
trying to
not.
No.
do
We
Covering
will.
good works
costs.
here to
I
help.
don't even know if it's doing that. This is a good thing to get more happening and have more access to
support the
money for
not-for-profit.
nonprofits.
Exactly. This is
Right.
solely to benefit the community, especially with the cash that we have potentially sitting.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not going
So I would
exactly.
think we
So,
gotta figure out how to be able to administer this with 1%
Yeah,
or
I know.
some small amount that's, I think being able to, I mean, if we have a committee and we're judicious about the loans that we make, to make sure that they're secured, and we ask for them to be secured against the grant. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, that way
Yes.
we can determine that the grant is in fact coming and it's secured. When they get it, we get our money. I mean,
That's right.
simple.
yeah. And I think, again, just looking at it from the ABO perspective, we have a responsibility to underwrite these and to do a robust review.
Yeah.
So we have to have we have to have some, thing that has them do that. I would imagine we would make a separate application,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And then the other thing the board we'd want to start thinking about is what does the recapture defaults look like on this? Late payment fees, like how are we managing, like, it's me and Matt chasing them down, is that really, or
We gotta get Bubba involved. I think we need to be selective when we make these to
Yes.
reputable, not-for-profits that aren't startups.
yeah,
I think it should be ones that have been in business for a year or two, or at least, enough so they have some track record of securing grants and that they have filed the appropriate tax documents at the end of the year so that they could provide us with some operating performance, financial performance. I think that there are a fair number of not-for-profits that could benefit from being able to use small amounts, relatively small loans that they really are not commercially viable. But if we know that if they have got secured a grant, we're going to get our money.
That's what I was thinking, that they're pledging the grant money
Yeah,
in lieu of this, right?
yeah, but
So
they
they have
that's the
haven't,
to.
collateral. It's
So
fully
that's one thing.
collateralized with the
Exactly.
grant money.
So that's
well,
one thing what I wanted to understand. We can talk to council as well. How do we make sure that when the check arrives, it comes straight to
well,
us?
that's what I was gonna say, because if the grant money is securing the loan, what are the grant terms in order for them to
To get their grant.
receive? Yeah, like if it
I
has a
understand what you're saying.
high like
How do we
level of
ensure-
reporting, and they're like, maybe they're good reporters, maybe they aren't. And then the grant says, no, you didn't report this properly. We're not going to reimburse you for those costs. That's where we could get into it.
The only cost that
recapture.
wouldn't be reimbursed would be our fees. That's why they need to be low.
No, I think
No, she's
she's saying, what if the grantee
Yep.
Yeah.
doesn't meet the needs?
correct.
That doesn't meet the requirements
Of the
of the
grant.
grant.
And then they
Well, that's
don't
why
get the
we
money.
don't want to do startups.
Yes.
We want to do folks that have been in business for a while.
So I
So
think,
we'll have a
can-
criteria.
and
you can
that's the
convince us that
underwriting process.
Right, and that's the committee that you want.
Yes.
It fully makes sense.
But then, even despite our best efforts, one of them slips through the crack, and we have to come after them. That's what we want. The terms of how do we come after you? Terms. That's what we need to. We want to make sure it's not a forgivable things. Second
Okay.
child,
Right.
even.
All right, all right,
We
all
don't
right.
want to be.
Let's
we don't wanna
not, let's
be
not, guys.
Going after a nonprofit.
Okay, ladies, no.
Who needed this bridge loan to get this money. That will be a bad.
Yes.
Yeah. But we have to have something in place that insulates the IDA from, preventing it from collecting. And I know I probably too many double negatives, but we don't want anything in here that doesn't allow us to recapture our.
Well, there are two things, right? One is the amortization of the loan itself
Mhm.
and the principal. Then, when you have the balance due, sorry, I'm just thinking away. When you have the balance due, there has to be a recourse. And if we have to go to the court, it has to be done in Ulster County. That'll have to be there. Other than that,
And then they
I mean,
have
we
to
can't really
pay like
ask
any
the-
fees associated with going to.
They will
Yeah, they would have to
Right.
pay whatever
Yeah.
fees. If they don't pay us, then,
right.
you know, then they're gonna have to pay for all of our legal costs to
Yeah.
collect.
I mean,
we
then
can
that's
check with the
typical
council.
recapture.
We can check with the
Yeah.
council if we can take the check from the grantor. I don't think the grantor would be amicable to simply send us the check directly. So we have
don't
to
wanna
have a
do that.
no, we don't want to either. And so we have to have a mechanism that says that whenever the check is coming in, we have to know. So they have to have a reporting period,
Yeah.
right? And then during the reporting period, within that period, they have to refund the amount.
No, and
That's kind of the
yeah, I
Right.
think that
Okay.
will work.
right.
I just want to prepare for anything that will, you know, I don't want to be sitting in small claims court.
Do we need to have anything on this at this point, or we come back?
No, I can clean it up a little bit, and I think what I could do then is just float it by Shannon, have a discussion with
Yes.
her, and have them
Yes.
start to put some actual pen to paper.
Do
All
you
right.
need any approval from us at all
No.
on that? All right,
No,
perfect.
I don't think
Okay.
so. We're just
Uh,
gonna, okay.
Do you want to
talking
quickly do
about
the
Really,
policy?
really quick, the only CRC policy is we do not have a local labor policy for the CRC. We only have it for the IDA.
We
So
should have it here as well.
we're looking to see if we want to have a local labor policy for CRC projects.
I
No?
think we should.
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because they can't afford to, or
I don't see why we would tie the hands of not-for-profits that are trying to squeeze everything out. You know, local labor has, has a distinct cost.
no, I'm
Spite of
looking,
our
I'm thinking,
chair saying that it
Not-
doesn't.
yeah.
Not prevailing wage
Not prevailing
labor,
wages,
just
local labor.
the local labor, that's all.
Local labor's fine.
Yeah, not prevailing
Prevailing
wages.
wage is a, you know, if you're getting, I don't know.
No, it's
No,
not,
no,
no, we're
I
not
see
looking
it,
at
and we're not
prevailing
talking about
wage.
prevailing
But I
wages.
think you do
Prevailing
have a,
wage is artificially high.
Well, here's the question, then let me just ask you very quickly. Do you think getting into this opens the door to prevailing wages?
I think it does. That's,
Okay, that's
Oh.
what you're alluding to, I understand.
well, the other concern I had was, if we
Okay.
are doing not-for-profits, we do collect a monitoring fee that we hold in escrow, so, you know, adding additional fees to not-for-profit projects. But we do have potentially, I would say in the next year and a half, we may be looking at additional bond projects through the CRC coming our way. So I think this is something we'd like the board to make a decision on before we have a project in front of us versus,
The labor.
yes,
Local
are we
labor.
going to require local labor for the CRC bond, you know, projects? That's
And
the
those could be
question.
big bonds.
Yeah, and we're looking at
yeah, we are.
$100 million bonds. I mean, these are not
Big
small
projects.
little projects. These are typically very large projects that are seeking a bond for local labor.
I think we want to encourage getting things done rather than tying them down, tying their hands.
So
I
I think,
in other sectors,
and we can think about it. It's not something you have to make a
Right.
decision even tomorrow. It's just makes it easier if we include it in the housekeeping resolution, but it can be done at any
All right, why
time.
don't we do this? I know everybody is short on time.
Yes.
Why don't we look at it again if we have to, and we
Right.
can come
let's
back?
table it.
I didn't want to use the word, yes.
All right,
All right,
thank
see
you,
you.
That was
Steve.
I gotta go.
All right. So yeah, and
All right.
that was the only thing I had on policies, and then we can go into which we can probably just say the same thing for CRC.
I was just gonna say,
that we
for
can
the
just- yeah.
other two policies and bylaws, and then the confidential board evaluations, it's the same as
It
IDA.
can stand.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
can
same.
stand here the same if you're,
Yep.
all right, so we had Steve for the full meeting. May I please call for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All
All
right.
in favor? Aye.
I.
Thank you, Steve.
All right,
Motion
thank you.
adjourned.
Take care. Thank